11-year-old Lily Thompson looked like any normal kid on Flight 628. Nobody knew the quiet girl in Seat 7A was the daughter of America's greatest fighter pilot. But when her famous call sign reached the F-22 pilots flying nearby, 2 elite jets broke their mission to honor the legendary Ghost Thompson's little girl. Before you watch complete story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. 11-year-old Lily Thompson sat quietly in Seat 7A of Flight 628, her purple headphones hanging around her neck and a math workbook open on her tray table. The United Airlines flight from Phoenix to Atlanta carried 247 passengers, but nobody paid special attention to the small girl traveling alone. Her unaccompanied minor badge swayed gently as the Boeing 787 cruised smoothly at 39,000 feet through the afternoon sky. Flight attendant Jessica walked down the aisle, with her usual warm smile, stopping at Lily's row. She spoke in the gentle, careful voice that all airline workers used with kids traveling by themselves. "Hi there, sweetie. How are you doing? Do you need anything? Maybe some apple juice or crackers?" Lily looked up with bright green eyes and smiled politely. "I'm fine, thank you very much." She closed her math book, hiding the advanced physics textbook underneath that she'd been secretly reading. No adult would believe an 11-year-old could understand jet engine mechanics and flight dynamics. Jessica patted Lily's shoulder gently. "That's wonderful, honey. We'll be landing in Atlanta in about 3 hours. Are you excited to see your family?" "Yes, ma'am," Lily replied, though the truth was more complicated. She was going to live with her grandmother now, ever since the military officers had come to their house 4 months ago to tell her mother that her father wouldn't be coming home from his last mission overseas. The businessman sitting across the aisle noticed their conversation and smiled kindly at Lily. "What grade are you in, young lady? You seem very smart for your age." "6th grade," Lily answered, putting down her pencil to be respectful when adults talked to her. She couldn't tell him that she spent most of her free time studying her father's old flight manuals and military books that her mother thought she was too young to understand. "Wow, 6th grade already. What's your favorite subject in school?" the man asked, reaching into his briefcase. Lily thought carefully before answering. She couldn't say that she loved studying how fighter jets worked, or that she knew more about military tactics than most high school students. "I like science and math a lot," she said instead. The businessman pulled out a small bag of airline cookies from his briefcase. "Here, take these. Flying can make you hungry, and these are pretty good cookies." "Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you." Lily accepted the cookies with a grateful smile, even though her stomach felt too nervous to eat anything. She had been listening carefully to the pilot's radio chatter before takeoff, and something about increased military activity in their flight path worried her. Behind her, a young mother with twin babies was struggling to keep them quiet. She looked tired and stressed as one of the babies started crying loudly. The mother noticed Lily watching and smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry about the noise, sweetie. Babies don't like flying very much sometimes." "It's okay," Lily said softly. "Would you like me to help? I'm good with kids." She didn't mention that she had helped take care of younger children on military bases while her father was deployed, and her mother worked extra shifts. The woman's face lit up with relief. "That would be amazing. Could you maybe make funny faces at Tommy while I feed Sarah?" For the next 20 minutes, Lily entertained the fussy baby with silly expressions and peekaboo games, making him giggle and clap his hands. Other passengers smiled at the sweet scene of a young girl helping a struggling mother. "You're wonderful with him," the mother said gratefully. "Do you have little brothers or sisters at home?" "No, ma'am, just me," Lily replied. She didn't explain that military families often helped each other, and she had learned to be useful wherever she was needed. An elderly woman in the seat behind them leaned forward with grandmotherly concern. "What a nice young lady you are, dear. Are you traveling to see family in Atlanta?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm going to stay with my grandmother." Lily didn't mention that her grandmother was a retired Air Force colonel who had flown transport planes during the Gulf War, or that this move was happening because her mother needed time to handle all the military paperwork and benefits after her father's death. As the flight continued, passengers treated Lily exactly like any other kid traveling alone. The flight attendants checked on her regularly, explaining when lunch would be served and showing her where the bathrooms were located. A teenager across the aisle shared her phone charger when Lily's tablet battery got low. A grandfather offered to trade his window seat so she could see the clouds better. What none of them knew was that Lily Thompson carried one of the most famous names in modern military aviation. Her father, Lieutenant Colonel James Ghost Thompson, had been the youngest pilot ever to fly the F-22 Raptor in combat. He had shot down more enemy aircraft than any pilot in 20 years, and had saved countless lives with his incredible flying skills. Her grandfather, General William Ace Thompson, was a living legend who had flown every type of fighter jet the Air Force owned and had trained most of the top pilots currently flying. The Thompson family call sign Ghost had been earned through 3 generations of amazing pilots who seemed to appear out of nowhere to save the day, then disappeared just as quickly. While other kids played video games about flying, Lily had grown up around real fighter jets and million-dollar flight simulators. While her friends watched cartoons, she studied tactical flying procedures that her father had taught her before his final deployment. But today, she was just another kid in seat 7A. 3 hours into the flight, Captain Martinez's voice came over the speakers with his usual calm professionalism. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're flying smoothly with clear weather ahead. Flight attendants, please begin preparing for our lunch service." Lily glanced out her small window at the landscape far below, automatically calculating their position and speed the way her father had taught her. She noticed they were flying slightly off the normal route that commercial planes usually took between Phoenix and Atlanta. Suddenly, the captain's voice returned with a different tone that made Lily's trained ears perk up. "Flight attendants, please return to your seats immediately and secure the cabin. We have received new instructions from air traffic control that require our immediate attention. All passengers, please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." Lily felt her heart start beating faster. She recognized that controlled urgency in the captain's voice from all the military briefings she had attended with her father. This wasn't a small problem like bad weather or mechanical issues. Through her window, she spotted 2 dark shapes in the distance that made her breath catch in her throat. F-22 Raptors, 2 of America's most advanced stealth fighters, flying in perfect formation alongside their commercial airliner. The elderly woman beside her squinted through the window, trying to see what had caught Lily's attention. "What are you looking at, sweetheart?" "I don't see anything but clouds out there." "Just clouds, ma'am," Lily replied quietly, not wanting to scare the other passengers. But those weren't clouds at all. Those were 2 of the most deadly aircraft ever built, flown by elite pilots who only scrambled for serious national security threats. In the cockpit of Flight 628, Captain Martinez was having urgent communications with air traffic control. His co-pilot, First Officer Sarah Chen, was monitoring multiple radio frequencies as messages came in from military command centers. "Atlanta Center, Flight 628 confirms receipt of security alert. We understand the threat level and are complying with all military escort instructions," Captain Martinez transmitted professionally. "Flight 628, Atlanta Center. Threat has been confirmed as credible and specific to your aircraft. 2 F-22s from Dobbins Air Reserve Base are now providing direct escort. Maintain current heading and altitude until further notice. Intelligence." Agencies had intercepted communications indicating that Flight 628 was being targeted by foreign agents who wanted to capture or harm a specific passenger on board. The threat was serious enough that the military had deployed their most advanced fighters to protect the commercial aircraft. The F-22s weren't just flying nearby for show. They were ready to engage any hostile aircraft that threatened the civilian plane. As the flight continued under military protection, small course corrections caused gentle turbulence that made some passengers look around nervously. A few people started whispering to each other, sensing that something unusual was happening during their routine flight. Then came the announcement that changed everything for everyone on board. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Martinez. Due to federal security protocols, we are required to conduct passenger identity verification. This is purely precautionary, but aviation regulations require us to confirm the identity of all passengers during certain types of security situations." Lily's stomach dropped. Someone had identified their flight as carrying a high-value passenger. The military escort wasn't just general protection. They were looking for someone specific, and she had a terrible feeling she knew who that someone might be. Jessica approached her row with a nervous smile that didn't hide her anxiety. "Sweetie, I need to check your travel documents again. It's just routine. Nothing to worry about." Her hands shook slightly as she opened Lily's travel folder. Inside the folder was Lily's regular identification, but also her military dependent card that identified her as the daughter of Lieutenant Colonel James Thompson, call sign Ghost. Jessica's expression changed completely when she read the name Thompson and saw the military designation and her father's rank. "Oh my goodness," she whispered, staring at Lily with new understanding and amazement. "I need to inform the captain immediately." A few minutes later, Captain Martinez's voice came over the aircraft's communication system. Due to a technical problem with the intercom, his radio transmission to air traffic control was accidentally broadcast through the entire cabin, where all passengers could hear it. Atlanta Center, Flight 628. We have confirmed passenger Thompson Lily, age 11, military-dependent daughter of Lieutenant Colonel James Ghost Thompson, killed in action. Request guidance on special protocols. The moment those words were transmitted over military radio frequencies, everything changed dramatically. In the lead F-22 Raptor, Major Robert Falcon Davis nearly lost his concentration when he heard the transmission. "Viper, did you copy that? Did they just say Ghost Thompson's daughter is on board that civilian aircraft?" "Roger that, Falcon," responded Captain Michelle Viper Rodriguez from the 2nd Stealth Fighter. "Ghost's little girl is on that plane. I can't believe it." Both pilots knew James Ghost Thompson personally and professionally. He had been their flight instructor, their mentor, and one of the greatest F-22 pilots who had ever lived. He had saved their lives multiple times during dangerous combat missions and had trained more than half of the Raptor pilots currently serving in the Air Force. His death in combat had devastated the entire military aviation community. Atlanta Center, "This is Raptor 1, Major Davis transmitted with obvious emotion in his voice. "Can you confirm that Ghost Jr. is actually aboard Flight 628? "Raptor 1, that's affirmative. Passenger is Lily Thompson, age 11, daughter of Lieutenant Colonel James Thompson. She's traveling as an unaccompanied minor to Atlanta." There was complete radio silence for several seconds as both elite pilots absorbed this incredible information. Then Major Davis's voice returned, filled with profound respect and determination. "Atlanta Center, Raptor 1 requesting permission to break standard protocol. We need to speak directly with Ghost Jr. on this frequency." The request was completely unprecedented in aviation history, but the Thompson name carried weight that transcended normal military procedures and regulations. Raptor 1, permission granted for direct communication. Flight 628, please patch passenger Thompson to military frequency immediately. Captain Martinez made an announcement that shocked every single passenger on the aircraft. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is highly unusual, but we have a very special passenger traveling with us today. The military pilots escorting our aircraft have requested to speak directly with Miss Thompson. Lily, could you please come to the cockpit?" Every head in the cabin turned toward the quiet 11-year-old in seat 7A. Passengers whispered urgently among themselves, trying to understand how a child could be important enough for direct military communication during a flight emergency. Lily unbuckled her seatbelt and walked toward the cockpit on unsteady legs, her heart pounding but her military training helping her stay composed and calm. The same passengers who had offered cookies and games and phone chargers now stared at her in complete amazement. Captain Martinez handed her an aviation headset with gentle hands. "The pilots out there knew your father, Lily. They want to talk to you." "Ghost Jr., this is Raptor 1, came Major Davis's voice through the headphones. "Your father was the greatest pilot I ever had the privilege to know. He saved my life more times than I can count. It's an incredible honor to be protecting you today, kid." "Thank you, sir," Lily replied with a steady voice despite the tears forming in her eyes. "My father told me stories about his wingmen. He said you were the best pilots in the whole world." "Ghost Jr., this is Raptor 2, Captain Rodriguez added over the radio. "Your dad taught me everything I know about flying the F-22. He was a true legend and hero. We're honored and proud to escort his daughter safely home." As word spread rapidly through military communication networks that Ghost Thompson's daughter was aboard Flight 628, something extraordinary began to happen. Air traffic controllers who had worked with Lieutenant Colonel Thompson started sharing their memories over the radio. Ground control operators who remembered him began speaking up. Even Atlanta Tower's chief supervisor, who had guided Lieutenant Colonel Thompson through advanced training flights, joined the growing conversation. "Ghost Jr., this is Atlanta Tower," came a weathered voice filled with emotion. Your father and I go back many years. He brought you to air shows when you were tiny. You sat in an F-22 cockpit when you were about 5 years old. He was so incredibly proud of you. Lily smiled through her tears, remembering that special day clearly. I remember, sir. That's when I decided I wanted to be a pilot just like my father someday. The radio conversation continued as military personnel throughout the southeastern United States shared their personal memories of Lieutenant Colonel James Thompson. What had started as a routine security escort had become an impromptu tribute to an Air Force hero and legend. Back in the main cabin, passengers listened in complete amazement, suddenly realizing that the quiet girl they had treated like any ordinary child was actually the daughter of a military legend. The businessman who had offered cookies now looked at her with awe and respect. The grandmother who had shared her window seat had tears streaming down her face. Flight attendants who had spoken to her in simple language now understood they had been talking to someone who probably knew more about advanced aviation than they did. Ghost Jr., this is Raptor 1. Major Davis's voice echoed through the cabin speakers for everyone to hear. We want you to know that your father's legacy lives on in every single pilot he trained. We fly better and safer because of everything he taught us. We'll always be here to protect his family. As Flight 628 began its descent toward Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, the two F-22s maintained their escort positions with military precision. But now they weren't just protecting a civilian aircraft from potential threats. They were honoring the daughter of a fallen hero and making sure she arrived home safely. The elderly woman reached over and took Lily's small hand in hers. I'm so sorry about your father, dear child. He must have been an incredible man and pilot. He was the best, Lily replied quietly, her voice steady despite her emotions. He always told me that being a good pilot wasn't about flying fast or having the most advanced equipment. It was about protecting innocent people and serving something much bigger than yourself. As the massive aircraft touched down smoothly on the runway, ground control had arranged something very special that no one on board expected. Fire trucks lined both sides of the runway in a formal salute. Ground crews stood at attention in neat rows. In the distance, more military aircraft from nearby Dobbins Air Reserve Base were arranged in precise formation on the tarmac, spelling out Ghost in honor of her father. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Martinez announced with obvious emotion in his voice. As we taxi to our gate, you'll notice our special welcoming committee on the ground. This is all in honor of our very special passenger, Miss Lily Thompson, whose father gave his life serving our country as one of the greatest and most heroic pilots in Air Force history. The entire cabin erupted in spontaneous applause that lasted for several minutes. Passengers who had seen Lily as just another kid traveling alone now understood they had been in the presence of aviation royalty and the daughter of an American hero. As passengers slowly disembarked from the aircraft, many stopped to thank Lily personally or share brief words about her father's service and sacrifice. At the gate, her grandmother Margaret waited with several uniformed officers, including the base commander from Dobbins Air Reserve Base and representatives from the Pentagon. Welcome home, Ghost Jr., said Colonel Patricia Williams, saluting the 11-year-old with military precision. Your father was one of our finest and you will always be part of our Air Force family. Walking through the busy terminal, Lily could see people pointing and whispering as word spread about what had happened. Airport employees stopped their work to salute respectfully. Military personnel throughout the terminal stood at attention as she passed. The most meaningful moment came when Major Davis and Captain Rodriguez appeared in the terminal, having rushed from their F-22s to meet her in person after landing at Dobbins. Ghost Jr., Major Davis said, kneeling down to her level and removing his flight helmet. I want you to have this. He handed her a squadron mission patch, the exact same one her father had worn on his final mission. Your dad would be so proud of the brave young woman you're becoming, Captain Rodriguez added with a warm smile. When you're old enough for the Air Force Academy, you'll have more recommendation letters than any candidate in the Academy's history. Every pilot your father trained will write letters supporting Ghost's daughter. As the busy terminal crowd watched in respectful silence, Lily hugged both elite fighter pilots, warriors who had escorted her safely home, who had known and loved her father, and who represented the continuing Thompson family legacy in military aviation. That evening, News reports across the country told the amazing story of Flight 628 and its very special young passenger. People nationwide learned about the quiet 11-year-old who had been hiding in plain sight. Not just a kid in seat 7A, but the daughter of a hero, inheritor of a legendary call sign, and the next generation of America's most distinguished military aviation family. Later that night at her grandmother's house in suburban Atlanta, Lily sat with hot chocolate while Margaret pulled out a thick leather photo album she had never seen before. "Your father would have been bursting with pride today," Margaret said softly, opening to black and white. Photographs of Lily's great-grandfather standing beside a P-51 Mustang during World War II. "But it's time you learned the complete truth about the Thompson family legacy." The album revealed 3 generations of aviation excellence and heroism. Her great-grandfather had shot down 18 enemy aircraft over Europe during World War II. Her grandfather had flown over 200 combat missions during the Vietnam War and later became a test pilot for top-secret military programs. Each generation had built upon the achievements of the last, creating a dynasty of service, sacrifice, and incredible flying skill. "There's something else very important," Margaret said, producing a sealed envelope from the album's back cover. "Your father left this letter for you, with specific instructions to give it to you when you proved ready to understand what being a Thompson really means." With trembling hands, Lily carefully opened her father's final letter. "My dearest Lily, if you're reading this letter, it means I didn't make it home from my last mission. But more importantly, it means you've shown that you're ready to carry on our family's proud tradition. The Thompson call sign, Ghost, isn't just a cool nickname. It's a sacred promise to protect those who cannot protect themselves, to stand between evil and innocence, and to never let fear stop you from doing what's right. I've watched you study flight manuals when other kids play games. You have the brilliant mind of an engineer, the brave heart of a warrior, and the caring soul of a protector. When you're old enough, the choice will be entirely yours to make. But know that whatever path you choose in life, you'll always be my daughter, and you'll always make me incredibly proud. Fly high, little ghost. All my love forever, Dad." Tears streamed down Lily's face as she finished reading the letter. She had always known her father was special and important, but she hadn't fully understood the incredible weight of the legacy she was inheriting. 5 years later, at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., 16-year-old Lily stood before a new exhibit featuring the Thompson family's 3-generation legacy of military aviation excellence. She had been invited to speak at the opening ceremony about military families and young people pursuing careers in aviation. 5 years ago, I was just a kid in seat 7A on what I thought was a regular flight. She began, addressing an audience of aviation enthusiasts, military personnel, students, and young people dreaming of flight careers. Nobody knew who I was or understood what my family had sacrificed for our country's freedom. But that day taught me that being a Thompson isn't about recognition or famous call signs or stories people tell about your family. It's about being ready to serve when your country and your fellow citizens need you most. She paused, looking out at the audience filled with faces of all ages. My family has served in the skies for 3 generations, and each pilot learned the same important lesson. True honor doesn't come from medals or records or newspaper articles, but from the people you protect and the lives you save through your service and sacrifice. After the ceremony, young people crowded around asking detailed questions about flying, military service, and pursuing careers in aviation. A 10-year-old girl stepped forward with impressive confidence. "Are you really going to be both a pilot and an engineer? Can girls really do both of those jobs?" "Girls can accomplish anything they set their minds to," Lily told her with conviction. "The sky isn't the limit for what we can achieve. Why, it's just the beginning of our possibilities." That evening, as Lily drove home through the Virginia countryside with her grandmother, she reached over and squeezed Margaret's weathered hand. "You know, Grandma, I used to worry constantly about the pressure of carrying our family name and living up to Dad's reputation. But after today, I realize I'm not just carrying the Thompson legacy forward. I'm making it my own and adding my own chapter to the story." Margaret smiled proudly, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small wrapped package.
"Speaking of family legacy, I have one more surprise for you."
This arrived in the mail yesterday. Lily unwrapped the package carefully, revealing a custom-made flight suit with Ghost Jr. embroidered across the chest. Attached was a note from Major Davis and Captain Rodriguez. "For when you're ready to join us in the sky. Every F-22 squadron in the Air Force is waiting to welcome you home. Tears filled Lily's eyes as she held the flight suit against herself. It was sized perfectly for her current 16-year-old frame, but she knew it represented so much more than just clothing. It was a symbol of acceptance, of belonging, of a future that stretched as far as her dreams could reach. The next morning, Lily woke early and found her grandmother in the kitchen, preparing breakfast and reading several official-looking letters that had arrived overnight. "What are those, Grandma?" Lily asked, pouring herself orange juice. Margaret's face was beaming with pride and excitement. "These are from the Air Force Academy, MIT, Caltech, and 6 other universities. Word about yesterday's ceremony has spread throughout the academic and military communities. Every major engineering and aviation program in the country wants to offer you full scholarships." Lily sat down at the kitchen table, overwhelmed by the magnitude of opportunities suddenly opening before her. The letter from the Air Force Academy was particularly detailed, outlining a special program that would allow her to study both aerospace engineering and flight training simultaneously. "There's more," Margaret continued, holding up an official military document. "The Secretary of the Air Force has personally invited you to spend this summer at Edwards Air Force Base, working with test pilots and engineers on next-generation aircraft development. They want your input on designing safer cockpits and improved pilot protection systems." As Lily read through the various letters and offers, she realized that her father's death had not ended the Thompson legacy. It had transformed it. Instead of simply following in his footsteps as a combat pilot, she now had the opportunity to help prevent other military families from experiencing the loss that had changed her life forever. Over the following weeks, Lily's story spread far beyond military circles. She was invited to speak at high schools across the country, sharing her message about pursuing dreams while honoring family traditions. Each speech drew larger crowds, and young people began reaching out to her through social media, sharing their own stories of military families and dreams of aviation careers. One particular message stood out among the hundreds she received. It was from a 12-year-old boy named Marcus, whose father was currently deployed overseas as an F-22 pilot. He wrote, "Miss Thompson, my dad flew with your father before he died. He told me that Colonel Thompson was the best pilot he ever knew. I want to be a pilot too, but I'm scared something might happen to my dad like what happened to yours. How do you handle being scared?" Lily spent an hour crafting her response, remembering her own fears and the wisdom her father had shared with her during their last conversation before his final deployment. She wrote back, "Marcus, being scared means you understand how precious life is and how much your family means to you. That's not weakness, that's love. The best pilots are the ones who are scared enough to be careful, but brave enough to do what's right when people need them. Your father flies with my father's training and spirit watching over him. Stay strong, and remember that heroes aren't people who aren't afraid. They're people who do the right thing, even when they are afraid." The exchange with Marcus led to Lily creating a support network for children of military aviators. Working with military family support organizations, she helped establish online communities where kids could share their experiences, fears, and dreams with others who understood the unique challenges of growing up in military aviation families. 6 months later, Lily stood in the same hangar at Edwards Air Force Base where her father had once trained for his most dangerous missions. She was wearing her flight suit, the one Major Davis and Captain Rodriguez had given her, and preparing for her first flight in an F-22 Raptor as part of her summer internship program, the test pilot who would be flying. With her was Colonel Sandra Phoenix Martinez, one of the few women to command an F-22 squadron and a close friend of her father's from their academy days. "You ready for this, Ghost Jr.?" Colonel Martinez asked, checking Lily's helmet and safety equipment with professional precision. "I've been ready my whole life," Lily replied, though her heart was pounding with nervous excitement. As they walked toward the sleek gray fighter jet, Lily noticed something special painted on the side of the aircraft. Below the cockpit, in elegant script, were the words Ghost Legacy, along with a small memorial to her father and grandfather. "We had that added yesterday," Colonel Martinez explained. "This particular F-22 has been designated as the Thompson family aircraft. Every time someone from your family flies, it will be in this plane." Climbing into the rear seat of the F-22, Lily felt the weight of 3 generations of aviation excellence settling on her shoulders. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she felt empowered. This wasn't just about living up to her family's reputation. This was about taking everything they had taught her and using it to make the world safer for future generations. As the powerful engine spooled up and the aircraft began to taxi toward the runway, Colonel Martinez's voice came through the intercom. "Ghost Jr., this takeoff is dedicated to your father's memory and your family's service. Welcome to the world of supersonic flight." The F-22 launched into the clear California sky with breathtaking power, climbing at an angle that pressed Lily deep into her seat. Within minutes, they were flying at altitudes where the sky turned deep blue and the curvature of the earth was visible below them. "How does it feel, Lily?" Colonel Martinez asked as they leveled off at 50,000 feet. "Like coming home," Lily replied, watching the endless expanse of sky stretching in every direction. "Like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be." During the hour-long flight, Colonel Martinez demonstrated various maneuvers and explained the advanced systems that made the F-22 the most capable fighter aircraft in the world. Lily absorbed every detail, asking technical questions that impressed even the experienced test pilot. "Your father would be amazed by how much you understand," Colonel Martinez said as they began their descent back to Edwards. "But I think he'd be even more proud of the young woman you've become and the positive impact you're having on other military kids." After landing, Lily spent the rest of the day working with engineers on her special project, designing improved safety systems for military aircraft. Her unique perspective as both the daughter of a fallen pilot and a future engineer brought fresh insights to problems that had challenged aviation professionals for years. That evening, she video-called her grandmother to share the day's experiences. Margaret's face lit up when she saw Lily still wearing her flight suit, hair tousled from the helmet and eyes bright with excitement. "How was your first F-22 flight, sweetheart?" "Incredible, Grandma. But you know what the best part was? When we were flying, I felt like Dad was right there with me. Not sad or scary, just present. Like he was showing me that this is my path now." Margaret wiped away tears of joy. "Your father always said that flying wasn't just about leaving the ground. It was about lifting others up with you. That's exactly what you're doing with your work helping other military children." As the summer program continued, Lily's reputation grew within the aerospace community. Her design innovations impressed veteran engineers, and her natural flying ability amazed instructors. But what set her apart was her genuine desire to use her talents to protect others, just as her father had done. On the final day of the program, Lily was surprised by a special ceremony attended by Air Force leadership, test pilots, engineers, and representatives from major aerospace companies. The Secretary of the Air Force personally presented her with a special recognition for her contributions to pilot safety research. "Miss Thompson," the Secretary said during his remarks, "your father served our nation with distinction in the sky. You are serving our nation with equal distinction on the ground, using your mind and heart to make flying safer for future generations. The Thompson legacy of service continues, just in a new and equally important way." As Lily stood before the assembled crowd, holding her award and wearing her Ghost Jr. flight suit, she realized that her journey was just beginning. The scared 11-year-old who had sat in seat 7A 5 years earlier had grown into a confident young woman ready to change the world. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Marcus, the boy who had first reached out to her months earlier. It was a photo of him at his local air show, wearing a junior pilot suit and standing next to an F-22 display. The message read, "Miss Thompson, my dad came home safely from his deployment last week. I start flight lessons next month. Thank you for showing me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing good things even when you are scared." Lily smiled, looking up at the infinite expanse of stars that seemed to stretch on forever. Somewhere up there, future generations of Thompson pilots would fly, carrying on a tradition that had started with her great-grandfather's P-51 Mustang during World War II. But now she understood that the family legacy wasn't just about flying fast or shooting down enemy planes. It was about using whatever talents you had to serve others and make the world a better place. She was still just Lily Thompson, but now she knew that sometimes being just someone was exactly enough to change the world for the better. The quiet kid from seat 7A had grown into a confident young woman, ready to take her rightful place in the long, proud line of Thompson aviators. each generation building on the accomplishments of the last, each person adding their own unique chapter to a continuing story of service, sacrifice, and the endless sky that would always call them home.